Okay, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our first conversation here at the workshop. So the day today, it is the 7th day of November, the year being 2021, and the time is 8:02 a.m. East African time. So the conversation for the day has to do with matters engineering. Actually, it is at the core of engineering. And the question that we'll be addressing or discussing is to be or not to be an engineer. Is it worth pursuing an engineering degree? Is it worth registering with the EBK, Engineers Board of Kenya, graduate engineer? Is there value in practicing as a professional engineer, consulting engineer, so on and so forth? So our guests for the day, we have Engineer Howard. We also have Ndolo, Anthony Ndolo, and Abdi Fatah Jama. So I'll let the guests introduce themselves. We start with you, Engineer Howard. Tell us about yourself.
Engineer Howard, I'm a civil engineer in a few cases outside the country. I've done engineering consultancy. I've done engineering education, as well as working for government. Thank you.
Okay, Ndolo, Anthony, Engineer Ndolo.
My name is Ndolo Anthony. I'm an electronic and telecommunication engineer by training and an expert also in AI and machine learning. Educator at the same time. Yeah, the simplest form of me.
I believe there's more to that. We'll get to know you.
More will come another day.
It's okay. So we have our one and only Abdi Fatah Jama. Can you please tell us more about yourself? Just a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, Namano, for coming up with this program. My name is Abdi Fatah Jama. I'm a civil engineer by discipline. I'm also a registered graduate engineer by Engineers Board of Kenya, registered graduate member at Institution of Engineers of Kenya, also a member of Association of Consulting Engineers, Future Leaders. I'm also an elected member at South Africa IK branch, and also I serve as an appointed member at Outreach Committee at the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. Currently, I am an assistant engineer, structural and drainage engineer in my professional role. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I think now we can proceed on to why we are here. So we'll go direct to the first question. I'll ask it. So is it worth pursuing an engineering degree in Kenya, or in your own capacities as practitioners in this particular field, the engineering space? Would you recommend to say someone a young individual would like to pursue engineering at a higher level? Would you recommend them, or would you advise them or encourage them to pursue engineering as a profession that is within the context of Kenya? So we start with a response from you, Abdi Fatah.
Thank you so much, Namano, for that question. On my end, I will say yes. Yeah. I will say yes, pursuing engineering in Kenya is worth it. Yes. Engineering is an excellent career of choice for someone that has the passion, someone who has the keen interest, strong math skills, and logical approach to problem solving. Remember that you must put a hard work to achieve any type of success, whether it is engineering, whether it is business, whichever thing you are going to do, you must put the hard work to achieve the success.
Yes.
And becoming an engineer in the end is also a rewarding, satisfying career. So if you become an engineer in Kenya, it's something that is worth it. I know it is a bit difficult in terms of the course content and the number of years you spend in school.
Yes.
But on my end, I will say it is worth it. And the most important part is that the engineering will enable you to create, test, design things that solve the world's problem, hence improving people's life.
Yes.
And that will offer endless growth opportunities as a person.
Yeah.
And if one wants to pursue engineering, you must just have to be very keen when you are picking your engineering field, because that determines how your life will be from campus. So if you have to pick a field that you have passion with, you just don't go and do engineering for the sake of doing it, or because a parent wants you to become an engineer, or because a brother wants you to take engineering as a course, or because you feel like it's a prestigious course, so you just go and pick engineering. Ensure you pick engineering that with a field that you have passion, so that now you have strength on that particular field. Another thing is, don't wait until you graduate for you now to start now networking. You know, that's another mistake people do. Then they say that we are tarmacking out here for a very long time. So once you picked your course and you've known that you want to do, for example, civil engineering, start early. Try to network with people, get to know what is needed in the industry. Try to prepare yourself earlier. So by the time you're finishing your 5 years, you have already set your path clearly. So to me, taking an engineering course is worth it. And if in case the opportunity is small in Kenya, you still have the window open. You can practice elsewhere also. So it's worth it.
Okay, so to you, engineer, it's worth pursuing an engineering degree in Kenya. So that is noted. So what about the next guest, engineer Howard? I believe you're still with us. Eh? What is your take? Would you encourage your younger brother to pursue engineering?
I would certainly encourage as many people as possible to take engineering. But for me, the reason why people go to take post-secondary education or tertiary learning, most of the motivation is whether they are able to get opportunities by what they study. And for me, the second motivation was whether my choices are going to make me money, because people want to secure their future.
Yes.
And the Bible. But what I would tell someone out there, or someone who is figuring out whether or not they should take engineering, I would send them to. I would ask them to appreciate some fundamental facts that in Kenya, and not just in Kenya but in Africa, engineering is more or less a virgin area, a virgin land. Considering the professional per capita requirements for the population, you realize the numbers of engineers compared to the numbers of people who need to be served with engineering services, the gap is really huge. And whether we have people who are struggling to get jobs or not, that's a good problem. If there are people who have learned engineering and they're struggling to get jobs, perhaps it could be because of poor leadership, not being able to match needs to resources. But it's not because there is no market for engineering. There is someone who was asking me whether I would consider moving out of the country to a developed country, and I was arguing that as a civil engineer, really the undeveloped countries are the virgin land. The places where we've not done all the roads, we've not done all the dams, we've not done all the railways, we've not done all the infrastructure projects that are required to sustain lives for the public or for the citizens of those countries. So yes, in Africa and Kenya in particular, I would strongly encourage anybody who is considering a career out there to think in the line of engineering at whatever level, whether they're doing at certificate, at technician level, or at a professional level, that is bachelor's degrees.
Okay, thank you very much. So it is a policy issue. That is if the lack of opportunities comes down to policy. It's not that we lack.
It's really a policy issue. You know, you can imagine a country like Kenya spends 2 trillion shillings on infrastructure or on engineering related projects in every year, but they're not able to absorb 2,500 engineers. It's really a policy issue. That mismatch has nothing to do with lack of opportunities. It has more to do with a policy issue, which to me is a good problem, which can be solved, and it can actually open many more opportunities for engineers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that particular response, Engineer Howard. So to our next guest, Engineer Ndolo. Are you still with us?
Okay.
Yes, Ndolo.
Yeah, yes, and thanks, Namano.
Yes,
The question is a bit tricky and a tough one at the same time.
yes,
But I think I also have my reasons for saying that. However, let me just rephrase the question in a simple form.
yeah,
Is it worth it to advise a KCC graduate student to pursue
yes,
engineering as a career choice, particularly in Africa,
yes,
Kenya for that case?
yes,
The answer is a big one,
yes.
a very big yes.
Okay, why is that?
And I can elaborate about it a bit,
Yes.
kiasi.
Yeah, okay, okay.
You see, engineering practice in Kenya is regulated by Engineers Board of Kenya.
Yes,
Under the Act, Engineers Act 2011.
yes,
And for that purpose, EBK has standards that universities have to follow.
yes,
And sometimes this is a challenge. This is a blocking step for some people, because how sometimes you go and pursue a course, whether it's within the country or outside the country, and then the course is not, the engineers board are not going to give you the certificate to practice in Kenya.
yes,
But that's another story for another day. We can discuss on it on a different occasion. But the answer is a yes.
yes,
One thing many aspiring engineering students need to understand is that these programs are tough, they're stressful, and you have to give it all. So if you don't have the passion of going for it, go for a course that will choose a course that you have the passion for, whether it is within engineering, but a sector that is not literally engineering practice. You can say, for example, engineering, telecommunication, or electronic engineering. Some people go and pursue IT because that's a passion. It's not an engineering course per se, but it has the content of what they want to pursue.
okay, okay, okay. So what I'm gathering from the three of you is that yes, there are challenges as far as the profession goes, but you'd still encourage the young individuals up there to pursue engineering as a degree at the tertiary level. So I'll move on to the next question, and it is a build up on the first one. I think I'll start with you, Ndolo. You see, so you've talked about regulations, the Engineers Board of Kenya, and so on and so forth. So my next question becomes: is it worth after you've graduated with your degree in engineering, is it worth going forward or proceeding to register as a graduate engineer with the EBK? That is the Engineers Board of Kenya. Is there anything for the young individual who intends to proceed with pursuing the profession?
Yeah, as my seniors put it, there's a problem with policy, policy implementation, not only from the government point of view,
Yes.
but at the same time, it applies to institutions, be it regulating authorities like EBK or National Construction Authority. There is some mismatch that need to be taken care of.
Yes.
It is work to register with any regulating authority in Kenya, because it gives the society or the population the trust that this person can be trusted in case of any problem. The government know from which channel to pursue it and correct the error and avoid having people masquerading as professionals and they are not.
Okay. So there's one. So okay, I'll move on to we'll pick it up from there. So same question to senior engineer Howard. Then we'll come to you, Abdifata. You know you're very passionate about this, so we'll come last on this one. So Engineer Howard, graduate engineer, is it worth it? Yes, Engineer Howard, are you still with us or? Okay. Abdifata, as Howard is still trying to find his internet connection, can you please respond?
Oh, sorry, sorry. I think I had muted myself. Sorry.
Okay.
I wanted to say the way I would look at this is that the journey to becoming an engineer is a journey. It's not just maybe a one of like it's not like just a destination, but it's really a journey. Personally, I usually tell people that it took me close to 13 years because that's a combination of five years of university studies, and then I took another 7 years of postgraduate progression in the profession to become a professional engineer. And because it's a journey, one of the key milestones of the journey is being a graduate engineer. And what designates you as a graduate engineer is that registration with the regulator. And there is no other path of becoming an engineer, a professional registered engineer, I mean, having authority to practice, unless you go through that journey. So first, for the sake of completeness of the journey, you do not have any other option other than having to go through that point called graduate engineering. But also for the sake of someone being able to account for you, because at the end of the day, the regulator is supposed to assure the public that what the public is getting is actually authentic. The regulator exists for the good of the public, and for the engineers of that person who is doing the engineering journey, for him to continue giving confidence to the public that they have what it is required for them to practice in whatever they're doing, or in the trade they're doing. It's necessary and important for them to get that registration. One of the challenges to this is when people ask, when I get registered as a graduate, what does it help? Maybe that's one of the areas that when this question is asked, we must focus there. People would imagine that, when the regulator registers me, they should also help me to get opportunities. But really, at that point, we need to realize that the only way that the regulator can help us get those opportunities so that we match with the zeal of regulating or controlling the profession is if they also take a lead in developing or in pushing for the policies that we just discussed a while ago. Policies, the kind of policies that can open up the market only for professional people. Then that way we will have a clear match that will keep on encouraging people to go through the full path.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, Abdi Fatah, take your passionate take.
I think on my end, just support whatever senior said. And to me, I'll say yes, it is worth it. Remember, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, and registering as a graduate engineer marks the beginning of your professional journey. So in Kenya, we cannot become a professional engineer without being a graduate engineer. So you must register as a graduate engineer. In fact, it's as serious as you cannot even join a professional society like in the Institution of Engineers of Kenya if you're not registered as a graduate engineer. So if someone chooses not to register as a graduate engineer, he or she will lose on some different aspects. First, he'll not get the opportunity to join professional society where he will network and build himself or herself. Second, he will not get the opportunity to transition from the graduate class now to become a professional engineer. And these are very serious things if you've chosen to become an engineer. If your path is to becoming an engineer, then you must register as a graduate engineer. That is a very important part. In fact, I want to encourage so many graduate engineers or graduates who have completed their school not to wait for some time before they go and register because they feel it's not worth it. Let them register as the minute they finish school so that they don't waste. When you look at the Engineers Act 2011, it prescribes a period that one can transition, which is 3 years. So if someone has just concluded his degree, I will really encourage them to rush quickly and ensure they register as graduate engineers so that now it reduces the time for them to now apply and transition to become a professional engineer. So if someone takes it as lightly as that and says, I'm not seeing the worth of it, and at the end of the day, you may spend another 5 years outside there, then you go for registration. Now the act limits you and tells you have to have another 3 more years. For you to register. So it is going to be something that is a loss for graduates. I would really encourage them that they should do that. But you see, I also support Howard that we have a policy problem. We truly have a policy problem because it's not about just registering. Then after registering, what next? We should have something called initial professional development for these graduate engineers. So once you come out of school, you quickly register as a graduate engineer. And again, when you look at best practices outside there, look at Malaysia. They don't charge their graduate engineers annual fees. It is free. But you see now in Kenya here, we are now charging them 4,000 shillings. One, we are now subjecting them to 25 CPD points. These guys, most of them are young engineers straight away from school. They have not learned on an opportunity. They are now under mentorship. So sometimes affording those kind of things becomes a bit difficult. That's what I'm saying is a policy issue. We should look at that 3 years as a transitioning time, so that now we can push our graduate and support them in terms of giving them initial professional development through the regulator or through the institution. So that once we have that, then we know that these people can work under professional engineers and earn a title, even if it's an assistant engineer, so that we just don't reduce them to a transitioning class. So it is very important, and it's good to register as a graduate engineer. It has its benefits. So I will say yes.
So
that question.
So the issue of transitioning comes up. There's also the issue of registration, lag time, you have to wait. So those are issues that we will discuss in depth in another session, because there's a lot of content to discuss there. So so generally, so it is once based on your responses, yes, you'd advise an individual to register as a graduate engineer, and not just to register, but to register as early as possible. Policy issues or no policy issues, those are issues that are separate from the question at hand. So
Chair, I just wanted to add one more comment. I believe in something we call system improvement, because when it comes to quality, one of the key principles of quality is continual improvement. The fact that the system is not working exactly the way you would want it to happen doesn't warrant discrediting the entire system. In fact, the best way to go about it is that to firm up that system and then make the adjustments and the improvements through the principles of continual improvement until you get the final product that you want. So yes, if someone doesn't feel the direct benefits of being a graduate engineer, the more the reason they need to continue going after being graduate engineers, so that as the regulation system continues working, we keep on making the required adjustments for it to serve the population and the professionals much better.
Okay, that is well noted. So to our next question, which is build up on the last one. So is it now worth practicing as a professional engineer in Kenya? So of course we know the class is a bit different. It's an upper class to the graduate engineering class. And we proceed with you. Just continue from where you are, Engineer Howard. So is it worth it? I believe you are, I know you are a professional engineer yourself. So kindly tell us more. Is it worth it?
I don't know if you are getting me clearly.
Yes, but you seem to be having some connectivity issue. But I mean, in the meantime, yes. Okay, so as Howard fixes his network, we can look at you, Engineer Ndolo. What say ye? Is it worth it?
Is it worth practicing engineering in Kenya?
No, is it worth now, upgrading your status? Abdifata was talking of transition. When he says transitioning, we all know it means moving from graduate to professional. So is there any value in being a PE or a professional engineer?
I mean, it's only in the third world countries where we have the classification of a graduate and professional. In other countries, you join a society.
Yes.
That society trains you to transit to a professional level. Like a good example of the Institution of Engineering and Technology of the UK, which I'm a member of. You join the society then looks at your progress, and then they recommend you to the Engineering Council of the UK to proceed to the chartered professional level. Two status only. One as a member, then you go through the professional training, and then you pursue But why do we have all these categories? Take within engineering fraternity itself. Let's look at. Well, let's not talk about the technology body that is also there.
Yeah.
Let's look at Kenya Engineers Board itself. Why do we have to have graduate, then we have professional, then we have consulting? Well, consulting is still doing the same thing. They are doing the same work.
Yeah.
Consulting and professional engineer are doing the same work. There's no much big difference. It's just the experience part of it.
Yeah.
So it is work doing engineering and doing all those categories. The most important fact for me is we have a regulator that looks at things and regulates the society the way it's supposed to work properly and deliver, so that we don't have misplanned or how would you say, an engineering concept. You know, when we talk of the engineering concept, which are not adding value to the engineering profession, and it brings a lot of bureaucracy. Yes. Whereby you have a number of graduate engineers, over 20,000, who cannot take up work because they are not working under registered engineer, and the number of registered engineers in Kenya are this much, 2,300 and something, which is very minimal. We have a population of over 5 million.
Yes, very low. No? Very low. Yes, yes.
And of course, studying engineering in Kenya, they also make it very hard. I talked about policy.
Yes.
Look, we have a student is supposed to go assignment, exams, and everything.
Yeah.
A student is supposed to do assignment and all that. Yeah. But there are other obstacles in Kenya where, like, for example, you have a lecturer going on strike. The students go on rampage. The university is closed for over 9 months. Then after that, you have to waste another time waiting for graduation. Thereafter, the problem cuts across. This problem is all over, not only undergraduate level, undergraduate, postgraduate studies. I can give a very good example. I have a very good friend of mine. Yes. We worked together back in Kenya, and he was pursuing his, he's older than me, but he was pursuing his master's. It took him 8 years to pursue master's in electrical engineering at a local university.
That is,
how many years does the master's take to do in other countries? If you go to South Africa, master's by research is only 1 year. If you go to UK, you have master's by research. In other Commonwealth country, master's by research only for 1 year. But it took this guy over 8 years. So policy issues, you give a block to people to transit from one level to another. Let's say I'm a graduate engineer. I need to pursue masters. Yeah. Where do you bring up policies or having less number of professors rather than professionals in the field?
Yes.
You see, that's the mismatch we are talking about.
Yes, yes, I get to engineer. So do we okay? Let us have Abdi. Engineer Abdi. Oh, how do I? You have to wait a little bit.
Allow my senior to go. Allow my senior to give his input, sir. Kindly.
Okay.
Thank you, Abdi. Thank you, Abdi. And thank you, Engineer Namano. Sorry, I again, connectivity problems, but I just wanted to reiterate that it's important for people to practice within the framework of professional engineers. And by saying this, I want to send us back to the reasons why we have regulatory frameworks. I had mentioned earlier that the reason why regulators exist is to give confidence to the public, and not just confidence, but also to protect actual interests of the public. The regulator must also do this in a manner to promote actual good practice rather than to stifle practice. So yes, the regulator is necessary, and yes, it's important for people to be registered as professionals for them to be allowed to practice as such. But I would go further ahead and say that the regulator needs to take advantage of this to ensure that the public is getting value, that the people who are allowed to practice out there are actually going to give value. And anybody who is not giving value as they're supposed to do, the regulator is supposed to use the exact same framework to ensure that such issues are corrected, improved, and services are better provided. Because if we go further to do fully what the regulation is supposed to do, it will cut out, number one, people who are providing services and they do not have that professional qualification or professional certification to do so. That means that whatever it is there to be done, it has to be done only by professionals. That's number one. If that is done effectively, the volume of work alone will not be, the volume of work will be overwhelming
Yes.
for the professionals who are available.
More
But
opportunity.
secondly, yes, but secondly, it will also open more opportunities to ensure that we do not have a backlog, as what Ndolo has pointed out. We do not have 30,000 graduate engineers who do not know exactly where to go and how to go there. But if you have a regulatory framework that is working efficiently, that is working correctly as it should,
Yes.
then this other 30,000 people plus who look like they're groping in the dark, wondering why in the first place they ever required to register as graduate engineers, they will find an easy fit in. They'll be able to get opportunities to work under professionals, to mold their careers and to move to the stage of professional engineers, where they can also provide their services within a proper regulatory framework.
Yes.
And where their services, the services to the public can also be delivered through an arrangement that the public gets value at each point. And wherever there is a problem of value not getting to the public, then there is also a clear structure of how to address that, how to remove it, how to improve it, how to replace it, how to make it better.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, for that particular response. So, Difata, your take.
My take on this question is a very interesting question. Is it worth to practice as a professional engineer in Kenya?
Yes.
My answer will be yes and no at the same time.
Fine.
My answer will be yes on an area that there are so many benefits of becoming a professional engineer, considering that it's the highest standard of competency for engineering profession. Professional engineering certification not only raises your stature in the field, but also shows the individual has the higher level of authority and responsibility. In fact, you are licensed to take responsibility. And that shows that your designs are safe and the public is safe at large.
Yes.
So for me, my point of view is this.
Yes.
Yes, because if the systems are okay, that now you have transition, and not just transitioning should also add value in terms of your life. It should also improve your life. It should also improve your status. It should also give you respect among your peers. So those are the benefits that we can get straight away. But look at this scenario where I say no now. You find yourself, you have transition, but you're still struggling. You see, you're still struggling, yet you have transition. You are now a professional engineer and you're still struggling. You cannot even afford maybe to pay the fees because of the system, the bad system that we have. So if we can change the system, if we can, like for example, the regulator is now focusing so much on the professionals, but not the industry. We have totally failed in linking the industry and the professional body. Today, a building collapses in Kenya, for example, in Nairobi. The professional body will now go to NCA to ask for grants. It means they do not regulate who submits what and what are the engineering standards being submitted. So if you can't regulate the industry, then you will not now regulate how engineers are being paid outside there. You will not ensure, for example, if the regulator was the one regulating the industry and ensuring that all approved plans are passing through EBK. So you submit that through EBK, and the EBK now has a team of accredited checkers to check the work of these professionals. Then it means that we are opening up our market to the private sector. You can imagine how many buildings are being approved in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru. The work is there, but the problem is we don't have a system to at least nurture this work and ensure that engineers are benefiting from this work. Foodies are the ones who are benefiting from this work. Contractors are benefiting more from engineering works than engineers. So we need to change the system. We need to ensure that we link the regulation to the practice so that now the regulator can understand who is submitting what. Because you see, even issues of undercutting. When you look at engineering, why is it tough for us to practice as an engineer? Part of registration is okay, tick. We agree someone has to have the right papers, someone has to have the right competencies. But now look at the livelihood. Look at the aspect of livelihood. You have now registered as an engineer. You go to apply in a government job. You get an offer of 65,000 as a PE, surely. These are things that we need to focus. You see, and it is out there. It is out there. They are being paid peanuts. But you see now, when you go to your company, you have registered. You used to be paid a graduate fee. Now the consultants may not even raise your fees. So we need to put a framework that once you've gone to this class of graduate, this is how much you're going to earn. And a clear framework. Once you've transitioned from this, these are the benefits. The employer should not be paying you this.
once you join a job group, the job group that you join, if you are of a status of a professional engineer, this is your starting salary. If you are of a status of a graduate engineer, this is your starting salary. So if we look at that, then we can say it is worth it to register as a professional engineer. But if things continue to be the way they are right now, the regulator is failing to regulate the industry, then it means that now it is everyone for himself and God for us all. So it means those who have connections, those who can have good dealings out there will benefit more than the rest.
Yeah, okay.
So if we can have it harmonized, we put good policies in place to ensure that the respect is given to the professional engineer, so that the professional engineers also, as much as they take a lot of time transitioning and becoming one and going through those thorough interviews and ensuring that their competency is okay, also in terms of engagement and how they engage. And that's why I want to congratulate EBK for pushing for the scale of fees, because now we are seeing the goodwill from the regulator. If this scale of fees goes through and now we have a standard way, then the regulator has to come back and control how engineers also are following that kind of code. So if we go in that direction, we will say it is worth it. But if we keep quiet and just having a paper as a PE, then I think it's going to be very difficult, because right now we are pushing to transition 10,000. You can imagine 2,000 is a problem surviving. Now 10,000 added to that. Now we'll be having 12,000. Even having opportunities for them will become a problem if we don't put a good policy.
Okay.
So that is
so there's why so transitioning, being a professional engineer is good. If I'm getting this right, it is good for the country. But now for the professional engineer, more needs to be done to make it worthwhile. No? So there's a plus and there's a minus depending on how you look at it. Okay, so thank you. I think we are running short of time, but of course there's more to discuss. So I'd like to ask or to request that we conclude the session at this point. I know Ifata, you have a journey to make. Howard, you also have some function to attend.
Oh, yes.
I understand.
Yes.
I understand. I know Ndolo has a couple of papers he has to work on. So I think it's an interesting discussion, but for our first conversation, I think it's a good place to start. But we will build up on this. So we'll pick up on the aspect of transition. Now, is there value in being a consulting engineer? Or as Abdifata was mentioning, there's also a new class. It's called the accredited checkers, which is now in the 2019 EBK rules. So we'll pick it up from where we left it, and then proceed to those parts. Then we'll also be, try to look at. There's also talk of this scale of fees, remunerating the practitioners in engineering. Of course, Abdifata, I believe, yes, EBK is pushing for that, but there's also conflict with the competition authorities of Kenya. So there's that push and pull. So those are issues we will be discussing now, say in our next conversation. So, my good people, I think we should call it a day. Yeah, and thank you very much for participating. And we'll meet. We'll have to do this again next week. We'll have a similar session, hopefully on a Saturday or. Yeah, hopefully on a Saturday. So thank you very much. And that should
thank you.
Thank you so much, engineer. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, moderator. And safe journey, Abdi.
Yes.
Thank you, engineer.
I can see
you guys keep safe.
Karibuni Mombasa, karibuni Mombasa. Mkifika mtutafute, tupo Mombasa sisi.
Oh yes, actually, I should have welcomed you guys to Mombasa.
Karibuni Mombasa
for the conference.
I'm on my way to Mombasa.
Yes.
Abdi, wewe lazima upande ndege.